I want to transition to the Western Conference where the Denver Nuggets they seized control of the number one seed just by a game last night when they beat the Timberwolves. Chaz, what are your impressions on the reigning defending champions? And who do you think is the biggest threat to them?
Yeah, I've been thoroughly impressed with the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, we covered their playoff run last year, which was really impressive for them to win it all. Nikola Jokic kind of cemented himself as the best player in the league, at least for the time being. And we saw
Yeah,
how big and how great that supporting cast can be. I feel like when this team is clicking, they're probably the best team in the league. And we just talked about the Celtics. They've ran away with the standings, but they're 0-2 against the Denver Nuggets this season. Both games were great games. The Celtics had a shot in both of them. Even the one in Boston, Tatum had a chance for a game-winning shot in the final seconds. Both games came down to the wire. That's why I think that series would be the best if we end up getting that in the finals. But the Denver Nuggets, I mean, 33 and 8 at home, third in the Western Conference with a plus 5.3 point differential. Like you said, they beat the Timberwolves last night, going into that game tied atop the conference. And then Jokic puts up 41 points and absolutely dominates the Timberwolves front court, and the Nuggets surge ahead to that one seed. So I think the Nuggets not quite as dominant as the Celtics in terms of the regular season, but I do think that they have to be considered the favorite out west. It's probably a little bit more difficult for them because that path is going to be more challenging than the Celtics. But I do have the Nuggets as my favorite for sure.
I think for the Nuggets, and they've been, kind of just on this steady slope all season, where they're not too high now, they're just right. They're just creeping in. Early in the season they were as low as the third seed, and they just kept creeping up to get that number one seed. They were just staying around hovering that number one seed. It never got out of distance, whether Thunder took the lead or the Timberwolves took the number one seed temporarily. It just never got out of their sight. And so they are the overwhelmingly favorites to come out of the Western Conference. But I do have two teams that I believe can give the Denver Nuggets a run. And both of those teams are in the play-in. And you know where I'm going. And you know where I'm going. The Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers are the two teams that can give Denver a run for their money. I'm not saying they can win, but I'm saying they could give them a run for their money. Let me start with the Warriors. In 2022, when we were discussing that matchup, and we were just talking about not them facing each other, but what the hypothetical of the situation could be between those two teams back when the Warriors won the championship in 2022. I told you that the difference between the Golden State Warriors and any other team that the Denver Nuggets will face is their style of basketball. The Warriors play a uncomfortable style of basketball that a lot of teams do not want to play. And the reason why they do that, and the reason why that is because first you have a point forward or a point center, whatever you want to call him, playing and predominantly having the ball in his hands. Steph Curry is most dangerous without the basketball. And people think he's most dangerous with it. He's most dangerous without it. And the reason is because he do not stop moving. The pick and roll, the cuts, the slants, the open layups that's caused by just the movement between Draymond, Steph, and Clay, it just puzzles teams to basically jank up their defense of how they're playing it. And I know I have so much to just break down the X's and O's of their system. I just don't have the time to do it. But really, what I'm saying is their style of play when they have Steph and they have Draymond at just in a situation where Draymond's at the top of the key and Draymond has the entire floor stretched out, gives the Warriors the best chance to beat the Denver Nuggets because what it does is forces Jokic out of the paint and it opens up the paint to cutters, Wiggins, GP2, Clay Thompson, if Steph Curry is in that situation, and opens all of that, it opens the floodgates to the floor. With the Lakers have the one true person, AD, that can contend and go toe to toe with Jokic. The Warriors can't match him point for point. The Lakers with AD, if he come to play, he can match him point for point. That don't mean that he can stop him. He can match him point wise. The Lakers have the recipe. Last year was a sweep. I understand that. It was close. I'm not a big fan of saying the closest sweep in NBA history. I don't like the term because they got swept. But those games came down to the wire. Fourth quarter, some of them are one possession games. If one or two things go right with the Lakers, they could easily win that series.
Yeah, I think both of those teams would pose a threat to the Nuggets. I don't know if I actually see them pulling off an
Mhm.
upset over them and beating them in a series. But like you said, they both have different types of rotations that I think would show, would give the Nuggets a little bit of fits at times. Like we saw with the Lakers last year, they were able to keep up with them throughout the 4 games. But in those last 5, 6, 7 minutes in the fourth quarter, they just weren't able to execute at the same level that the Nuggets were able to. As for the Warriors, we've seen them beat the Nuggets in the past, but that was a Nuggets team that was drastically different with, Jamal Murray still out with the injuries in the past. I think they would have a chance to exploit Jokic in that pick and roll. I think Curry in any series could be the best player on the court, and that could sway a series. But I think we've seen it this year. I believe the Nuggets have beat the Warriors all 4 times this year. A couple of times they've been great games, 3-point games. Jokic had, the 40-foot shot that beat them, in January. I think
I
that
think it's a 3-1 edge for Nuggets, 3-1 edge.
okay, yeah, I know it was at least 3-1, if not 4-0, but the Nuggets have kind of dominated the Warriors since they played in that series a few years back. So I think just with their interior presence, I think the Nuggets would win that series. But I do think the Warriors and the Lakers could at least pose a threat to them, maybe win a game or two. I don't see them taking them to 7 or beating them though.
I think the Warriors that we see playing the last 18 games is a different Warriors team that we saw the first 40 or how many games before that.
Yeah.
And so with that, and the way that they're playing, I give the Warriors, and Denver's the overwhelming favorite. I give the Warriors at least a chance to beat them. I don't think the Timberwolves, I don't think the Thunder, I don't think any of these teams really legit have a chance to beat the Denver Nuggets outside of Golden State and the Lakers. And that's mainly because of experience, and that's mainly because of the two guys on the side that's playing on those teams, Steph and LeBron.
I think I buy into the Timberwolves and the Thunder maybe a little bit more than you do. I don't see them beating the Nuggets, but I do think, the Timberwolves have such a great front court with Rudy Gobert and then just a slew of perimeter defenders. That's the best defense in the entire league. So I think maybe they would have a chance to win a couple games against the Nuggets, and then the Thunder, obviously with their drive and kick offense and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander being the player that he is. I think maybe, they could challenge the Nuggets a little bit, but they don't have an interior presence. Chet Holmgren, as good as he is, he can't do anything with Jokic in the middle. The Clippers, for a long stretch of the season, were in that conversation with the Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Thunder for being, are they a potential number 1 seed? And then they've fallen off for the last maybe month and a half or so. But we saw after the Harden trade, they kind of got their things, they kind of got it together and they went like 26-5 for a 30-game stretch there. And it looked like, maybe is this a team that can make the finals? And then the Mavericks were a team that was kind of middling all year round. They were in that playing conversation. And then since the beginning of February, they've been one of the best teams in the league. I mean, they made the trade acquisitions to get PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. Those guys have been great fits. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic have been playing seamlessly together. I don't think many of us saw them playing so well off of each other. Their team chemistry has been great, 16-2 in their last 18 games. They're going to be in that first round matchup against the Clippers. So I do think whoever comes out of that series, they'll face the Nuggets most likely in that second round. And I do think they can at least stay with the Nuggets a little bit. What do you think about those two teams?
I think the Mavericks have a better chance of beating the Nuggets than the Clippers do. And I always hesitate to say stuff like this, but they might be the best scoring backcourt in NBA history. Luka and Kyrie. And so when you have that, the Nuggets can't contend with the firepower that they possess. It becomes a Murray, Jokic versus Kyrie and Luka scenario. And I like the Mavericks' chances in that situation. And so it's going to come down to the other parts around them. But I do believe the Clippers have the team. And it's so frustrating to be a Clippers fan. It has to be. Because they have the team and the personnel to be a championship level team. It just never works out how it's supposed to. The plan never gets past. It's like you're planning a trip with your family and it never gets past the text messages in the family thread. The trip never happens. It never gets past that stage. That's the Clippers.